My family called me a mistake and kicked me out on New Year's for refusing to pay my sister's wedding, so I quietly hatched a plan to ruin her big day. Next New Year's Eve has always been a big deal in my family. We sat around the table, plates full of roast beef and mashed potatoes, champagne glasses clinking. I had just finished laughing at a story my uncle was telling when Amanda decided it was the perfect time to make her big announcement. She began pushing her chair back slightly, as if she wanted all eyes on her. I've been meaning to bring this up. Kevin and I have set a date for the wedding. Cheers erupted around the table, everyone congratulating her and Kevin, who sat there with his usual goofy smile. I kept quiet, not that I wasn't happy for them, but Amanda and I had a history, and it wasn't great. She had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes, even though she had a habit of lying, manipulating, and turning people against each other. I'd been her favorite target growing up. She looked at me then, and I swear I saw something smug in her eyes. "And Jacob," she continued, her voice sweet, "I was hoping you could help us with something." The tension hung thick in the air, a carefully laid trap I hadn't seen coming. I arched an eyebrow, lips sealed, as my parents' gazes bore into me, expectant, almost demanding. My sister, Amanda, leaned forward, her smile too bright, too practiced. "We've been planning, Jacob, and since you're doing so well, great job, no kids, no responsibilities, we figured you could pitch in for the wedding costs." Her words landed like a sucker punch, casual but calculated, right in the middle of our family dinner. The clink of silverware stopped, every pair of eyes swiveled to me, the room suffocating in its silence. "Excuse me?" I managed, my voice low, disbelief creeping into every syllable. Amanda let out a laugh, high and artificial, waving a dismissive hand. "Oh, come on, don't play shocked. Weddings are expensive, and Kevin and I want ours to be unforgettable. You've never really stepped up for the family, Jacob. This is your chance to show you care." Her tone was syrupy, but the implication was clear. She expected me to fall in line. I stared, my mind scrambling to process her audacity. "Amanda, why would I—" She cut me off, her voice sharpening like a blade. "Don't make me spell it out in front of everyone." Her eyes glinted with a knowing threat, a secret she'd been holding like a trump card. "Let's just say, if you don't help, I might have to share why you've been so distant lately." The words hit harder than I expected, a cold stab of betrayal. My parents, predictably, rallied to her side. My mother, ever the dramatist, clutched her napkin and gasped, "Jacob, this is your sister's wedding. If you're so selfish that you can't help, maybe we'd all have been better off if you'd never been born." Her words were a sledgehammer, shattering the fragile calm I'd been clinging to. My father nodded, his face a mask of disappointment, as if I'd failed some unspoken test. The room spun. Amanda's smug grin burned into my vision, while Kevin stared at his plate, unwilling to meet my eyes. My mother's words echoed, "Better off if you hadn't been born," over a wedding. The absurdity, the cruelty, left me speechless. My face flushed with anger and humiliation, and I couldn't sit there another second. I shoved my chair back, the screech of wood against tile cutting through the silence. Grabbing my keys, I stormed out, ignoring my father's parting shot. There he goes again, running away when things get tough. I slid into my car, the engine roaring to life as I peeled away from the house. The city blurred past, neon signs flickering, crowds of late-night revelers spilling onto the sidewalks, their laughter a stark contrast to the storm in my chest. My phone vibrated relentlessly, texts from my parents flashing across the screen, urging me to return to talk it out. I silenced it, my grip tightening on the wheel. I wasn't ready to face their manipulation, not tonight. I found myself at a run-down diner on the edge of town, the kind of place that never closed, where the air smelled of burnt coffee and fried grease. I slid into a cracked vinyl booth, nursing a bitter cup of coffee, the laminated menu untouched before me. The scene replayed in my mind like a bad movie, Amanda's triumphant smirk, my mother's venomous words, the way Kevin avoided my gaze, complicit in his silence. My parents' accusations stung deeper than I wanted to admit, greedy, selfish, distant. Did they really believe that? Or was it just Amanda pulling their strings? The weight of her veiled threat lingered, a shadow I couldn't shake. What did she know? What could she possibly hold over me? The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow on the chipped formica table. A waitress shuffled by, refilling my cup without a word, her face as tired as I felt. I stared into the dark liquid, my reflection warped and unfamiliar. I'd worked hard to build a life, to carve out my own path, but somehow it was never enough for them. Amanda's wedding was just the latest excuse to drag me back into their orbit, to make me pay for daring to live on my own terms. I wasn't going back, not tonight, maybe not ever. The coffee grew cold, but I stayed, letting the hum of the diner drown out the chaos in my head. Around 2 a.m., I finally drove home. My phone was still buzzing with notifications, mostly from my parents, a few from Amanda, and even one from Kevin that I didn't bother to open. I threw it on the couch and tried to sleep, but I couldn't. In the morning, I felt more tired than when I'd left the table. When I finally checked my phone, I saw that Amanda had texted a list of wedding expenses. My parents had also chimed in, saying that they had already covered 20% of the costs, and that it was only fair that I covered the rest, since I was still single and had no family to support. They even went so far as to call it my duty as a brother. It wasn't a request anymore. They made it clear that it was my responsibility. And it wasn't as if Amanda was asking for a modest backyard wedding. No, she wanted the whole package, an upscale venue, a designer gown, catered meals, an open bar, you name it. The total came to almost $50,000. The nerve of her to send me this breakdown like it was just another bill to pay. I texted back a single message, no. The response was immediate. My mom called me furious, but I let it go to voicemail. Then Amanda started texting, calling me selfish, greedy, and ungrateful. She even threw in a few digs about how I'd always been jealous of her, and that this was my chance to make it up to the family. Later that afternoon, my father called and said they were coming over to straighten this out. I told him not to bother and hung up. That was when the real guilt started. The group text began. Amanda added my parents, Kevin, and even some of my aunts and uncles, making me look like the bad guy for not pitching in. My mom kept throwing in lines like, "We raised you better than this," while Amanda kept hinting at this big truth she'd reveal if I didn't comply. She wanted me to squirm, and the worst part was, it worked. I couldn't shake the feeling that everyone was against me. I'd been the black sheep for years, sure, but this was a new level of isolation. I began to wonder if maybe I was being selfish, maybe I should just give in to keep the peace. But then I remembered all the times Amanda had lied to make me look bad, like when she lost her wallet and told our parents that I refused to help her pay for gas when she had just spent her paycheck on a new cell phone. Or when she started a rumor that I'd skipped my grandmother's birthday because I didn't care, but I was actually stuck at work. Amanda was a pro at playing the victim, and I wasn't going to let her win this time. That night, I had an idea. If Amanda was going to make my life miserable, maybe it was time to turn the tables. By the next morning, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to let Amanda or my parents walk all over me. They thought they had me cornered, but they didn't realize I wasn't the same pushover they'd been taking advantage of for years. The texts and calls didn't stop. Amanda was relentless, dropping more hints about this truth she supposedly knew about me. I could tell she was getting desperate, probably because the wedding plans were already in motion. My parents chimed in periodically, always with some guilt-ridden comment about how I was letting the family down. I ignored all of that and started working on my own plan. The first thing I did was reach out to Kevin. He wasn't a bad guy, just a bit of a doormat if I'm being honest. He'd always gone along with whatever Amanda wanted, no matter how unreasonable. But I had a feeling that if I dangled the right carrot, he'd jump ship. We met at a coffee shop a few towns over so no one would see us. When he walked in, he looked nervous, like he was afraid Amanda would catch him talking to me. I didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Kevin," I said, "how serious are you about this wedding?" He hesitated, rubbing his neck. "I mean, I love Amanda, but, weddings are expensive, you know." I almost laughed. The guy looked like he'd rather be somewhere else. "Well," I said, leaning forward, "what if I told you there was a way out?" "No strings attached." He blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean," I continued, "what if I gave you 10 grand to just disappear? Call off the wedding, tell Amanda it's over, and get on with your life. No explanations, no drama, you walk away with cash in hand." His jaw dropped. 10 grand? Are you serious? "Dead serious," I said, "and you don't even have to tell her it was my idea. Just say you're not ready or whatever. The money's yours either way." He stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the gears in his head turning. Kevin wasn't exactly rolling in money. Amanda had mentioned more than once that he was struggling to make ends meet. $10,000 was a lifeline for a guy like him. Finally, he nodded. "Okay," he said, "but what do I tell her parents?" "Doesn't matter," I said. "By the time they find out what happened, you'll be long gone." We worked out the details, and I handed the money right there. It was worth every penny just to see the weight lift off his shoulders. He promised to end things with Amanda that night. When I got back to my apartment, I felt a sense of satisfaction I hadn't felt in years. For once, I wasn't the one being manipulated. This time, I was in charge. Now all I had to do was wait for the fallout. It didn't take long for the chaos to begin. The next morning, I woke up to nearly a dozen missed phone calls and a barrage of texts from Amanda. I didn't even have to read them to know what had happened. When I finally checked the messages, Amanda was in full meltdown mode. "Kevin left me. He said he wasn't ready for marriage." What the hell does that even mean? "You did this, didn't you?" The accusations flew in rapid succession, each one angrier than the last. I couldn't help but smile. She had no idea what I'd done, but she was desperate to find someone to blame. Then came the call from my mother. I let it go to voicemail because I wasn't ready to have this conversation. When I played it back, her voice was desperate. "Jacob, your sister is devastated. Kevin broke up with her out of nowhere, and she says you might have had something to do with it. Please call me back so we can sort this out." I didn't call her back. Instead, I decided to let her stew for a while. By the afternoon, the group text had started up again. Amanda was ranting about how Kevin had blindsided her, while my mom kept trying to calm her down. My dad chimed in with, "As usual, this family is falling apart." I stayed silent and enjoyed the show. Around dinner time, Amanda finally broke down and called me directly. I debated ignoring her, but curiosity got the better of me. "Jacob," she yelled the moment I answered. "What did you say to Kevin? Don't lie to me, I know you had something to do with it." "Why would I have anything to do with Kevin leaving you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice as neutral as possible. "Because you're jealous," she snapped. "You've always been jealous of me, and now you're trying to ruin my life." I couldn't help but laugh. "Amanda, maybe Kevin just realized what everyone else already knows. You're impossible to deal with." That sent her over the edge. She screamed something about me being the worst brother in the world and how she was going to make sure everyone knew it. I hung up on her before she could finish. That night, my mother showed up at my door. I almost didn't let her in, but I figured it was better to get it over with. She looked angry. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded. "Doing what?" I asked, feigning innocence. "Don't play dumb," she said. "Amanda's wedding is off, and now she says you were involved. Did you say anything to Kevin?" I shrugged. "If Kevin doesn't want to marry Amanda, that's between them. Why would I have anything to do with it?" She didn't buy it, of course, but without proof, there wasn't much she could do. After a few more accusations and guilt trips, she finally stormed out, saying I'd ruined the family. I poured myself a drink and raised my glass to the empty room. One down, two to go. The fallout from Amanda's canceled wedding was everything I'd hoped for. She was humiliated, my parents were scrambling to fix the situation, and Kevin was probably halfway to a beach somewhere with his $10,000. Everything was going perfectly, until the unexpected happened. 2 days after the breakup, there was a knock on my door. I assumed it was my mom coming back for round 2 or Amanda showing up to yell at me in person. But when I opened the door, it wasn't either of them. It was Kevin, and he wasn't alone. Standing next to him was Amanda. For a split second, I thought maybe they'd made up. Maybe Kevin had chickened out and told her the truth, and now they were here to confront me. But the look on Amanda's face wasn't anger, it was confusion. "We need to talk," Kevin said, walking in before I could stop him. Amanda followed, her arms crossed. "What the hell is going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Kevin looked at Amanda and then back at me. "I told her," he said. My stomach dropped. "Told her what?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Amanda said that you paid him to leave me." For a moment there was dead silence in the room. Then Amanda shoved a piece of paper into my chest, a bank withdrawal slip. $10,000, she hissed. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" I took the slip and looked at Kevin, who looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. "Why would you tell her?" I asked him. "She guessed," he said weakly. "She saw the deposit in my account and wouldn't let it go." I didn't know what to say. I couldn't believe it. All that money. And Kevin didn't even have the backbone to keep his mouth shut. "What's wrong with you?" Amanda demanded, her voice trembling. "Do you hate me that much? You couldn't just say no to the wedding, you had to destroy my relationship too?" I opened my mouth to reply, but before I could, Kevin blurted out, "It's not like we were going to last anyway." Amanda's head snapped towards him. "What?" Kevin threw up his hands. "Come on, Amanda. You're controlling, you don't listen, and you treat me like crap half the time. Jacob didn't ruin anything. I was looking for an excuse to leave. He just made it easier." Amanda stared at him, stunned. For a moment, I thought she might actually cry. Then her face hardened and she turned back to me. You think this is funny? You think you've won? I crossed my arms. Amanda, you've spent your whole life lying and manipulating people to get what you want. Maybe it's time you learned what that feels like. She stared at me for a long moment, then stormed out without another word. Kevin hesitated, then muttered, "Sorry, man," before following her out the door. I stood there for a moment trying to process what had just happened. I'd expected Amanda to explode, but for Kevin to admit that he never wanted to marry her, that was a twist I hadn't seen coming. And as much as I hated to admit it, I couldn't help but feel a little sorry for her, just a little. But not enough to regret what I'd done. For the next few days, I didn't hear from Amanda, my parents, or Kevin. It felt strange, like the eye of the storm, but I was too exhausted to care. I told myself I had no regrets. They deserved to know I wasn't their punching bag anymore. Yet the silence weighed on me. For all their faults, they were still my family, and the way things had blown up left me feeling hollow. Then, over the weekend, my dad called. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Jacob," he said, his voice lower than usual. "We need to talk, all of us." "Why?" "So you can tell me I'm a disappointment again?" I shot back. He sighed. "No, look, we talked, and we didn't handle things right. Just come over, okay?" Reluctantly, I agreed. When I showed up at their house, Amanda, my mom, and Kevin were already there. The atmosphere was tense, but there was something different this time. Less hostility, more discomfort. My dad motioned for me to sit down, and for once, no one started yelling. "We owe you an apology," he began. "Your mother and I, we said things we shouldn't have. We shouldn't have put so much pressure on you. It wasn't fair. I didn't say anything, waiting to see where this was going." Amanda spoke next. "I was out of line too," she said, avoiding eye contact. "I shouldn't have tried to manipulate you into paying for the wedding, and I definitely shouldn't have threatened you. That was wrong. That wasn't easy for her to admit, and I could tell it took a lot for her to say it." For the first time, she looked less like the self-absorbed sister I'd grown up with, and more like someone trying to make amends. Kevin, to his credit, spoke up as well. "Jacob, I shouldn't have taken your money. It was wrong, and I've felt guilty ever since." He pushed an envelope across the table. I brought it back. Inside was every cent of the $10,000 I'd given him. I stared at it, stunned. My father cleared his throat. "We don't want to lose you over this, Jacob. You're our son. We've made mistakes, big ones. But we want to make them right." For the first time in years, it felt like they meant it. I leaned back in my chair, and the anger and hurt I'd been holding in for so long began to fade. "I've spent years feeling like an outsider in this family," I finally said, "like I wasn't good enough, no matter what I did. And what happened on New Year's, that was the breaking point. You all made me feel like I didn't matter." My mom wiped her eyes. "We're sorry, Jacob." "We really are." I took a deep breath. If we're going to move forward, things have to change. No more guilt trips, no more treating me like a second-class family member. Agreed, they all nodded, even Amanda. Then I looked at her. "And your wedding, I'll help, but only because I want to, not because I'm forced to." Amanda's eyes widened. "You will?" "I'll kick in $5,000, I said. "Use it wisely." Her face softened, and for the first time in years, she smiled at me. Not a smug or condescending smile, but a genuine one. "Thank you, Jacob." It wasn't an instant fix for years of resentment and hurt, but it was a start. We talked more that night, about everything, what went wrong, how we could do better, and how we could rebuild our relationship. When I left, I felt lighter than I had in years. I still didn't fully trust Amanda or my parents, but I was willing to give them a second chance. And when Amanda's wedding day finally came, it was a simple but beautiful ceremony. As I watched her walk down the aisle, I couldn't help but smile. Not because I'd paid for part of it, but because for once, I felt like a real part of the family.